Module 2, Principles of Assessment in Early Childhood Education. In the previous module, a brief insight was given to understand the meaning of assessment and its necessity. In this module, let us understand the principles of assessment. Before that, let's understand the meaning of the principle and the need for principles in general. Learning outcome. Understand the meaning of principle. Understand the need to formulate principles for assessment. Understand the principles of assessment in education. Understand specifically the principles of assessment in early childhood education. Meaning of principle. According to the Oxford Dictionary, principle is a rule or a law that is a fundamental source or a basis of something. Why are principles important? A principle gives a very clear picture and makes it easier to follow instructions. A principle tells very clearly what's not to be done. Principles are very elaborate and give scope for a lot of thinking. Once a principle is formed, it never changes. Principles helps in recognizing the truth and applying it at given situations. Principles are tools that help in evaluating one's thoughts and actions. Principles help in making quick decisions even under completely new situations. General principles of assessment. Principles of assessment helps in understanding and ensuring that the tests have been of use, are appropriate and dependable. It is very important to consider these general principles of assessment as it is very important aspect in the field of education which will help in understanding the achievements of a child. There are 5 general principles of assessment. Practicality. As the word says, this refers to the meaningful application of the test and its accountability. The assessment that has been administered must be appropriate, simple, cost-effective, and time-saving. Reliability refers to the factor that looks at the stability of the assessment or tests applied. It also means that any standardized assessments that are applied must produce the same result, which will help the educator in understanding the reliability of the assessment tool. Validity. Validity tells an educator that the assessments applied and scores obtained must remain consistent and in place with the norms, thus proving that the test is valid. Validity can be of many types. They are content validity, criterion validity, construct validity, consequential validity, and phase validity. Authenticity. The assessment tool must be real, simple, related to context, easy to understand and follow, and can be applicable to real life experiences. Washback refers to the effects of the teaching and learning experiences on the students, which can be positive or negative. Other basic principles can include reliability, validity, authenticity, objectivity, practicality, interpretability, washback effect. According to the Canvas Resource Center for Online Faculty, there are 10 simple principles of assessment that educators need to follow. They are: clearly state to the students the expectations that will be expected out of them while in the learning process. Explain the criteria that will be taken into consideration before and after assessment. Explain to the students the goals they have to achieve in order to fulfill the assessment criteria. Educators must take into consideration whether the assessment encourages deep learning among students. Assessments must provide qualitative feedback to the students which can help in correcting themselves. Assessment must motivate the students and build a positive self-esteem. Assessment should not be just paperwork, but provision must be given for interaction between the peers and the teachers. Assessment does not end with teachers, but opportunities must be provided to students and peers to self-evaluate and evaluate peers. Learner controlled assessments are equally important. Students must be involved while having a relook at the assessment process, as their opinion also matters. Assessments must be able to help and support the development of learning. Assessments helps teachers to adapt their teaching methods to the likes of the students. Principles of assessment in early childhood education. The following are the general principles that have to be followed while assessing young children, as given by the National Education Goals Panel US. Children must be benefited from the assessments. It's extremely difficult to get accurate results from young children. Children are never the same every day. It is very difficult to predict a child's behavior. Therefore, taking into consideration these aspects, it must be very clear that the assessments will benefit the child as well in improving the quality of curriculum. Assessments must be very specific and criteria based, as assessment must be very reliable and valid and impartial. For example, an assessment made to evaluate the cognitive development of a child cannot be used to assess the language development. Each domain should have different assessment techniques. Assessment also depends upon the age of the child. Younger the child, the data obtained will be less reliable and less accurate. Assessments must be very age specific. It is advisable that certain assessments must be carried after the child crosses the age of 6, as the data can be more steady and stable. Assessments must be planned according to the age group, and the methods of assessments also differ for different age groups. Young children must be assessed in all the areas of development. The age gap provided in the assessment tools must not be for wide age range, as young children development differs from month to month. For example, assessment tool used for a 1-year-old cannot be used for 1.2-year-old child, as there will be a lot of developmental differences. Young children must be assessed in an environment which they are familiar with to obtain reliable results. Observation and interviews are best methods for children below 3 to 4 years of age. Observing children performing a task naturally and on their own is better than asking the child to do the same on a particular day. There are all chances of the child feeling conscious and not performing well. Language is a very important factor that must be taken into consideration while assessing children. The educator must be flexible enough to be able to communicate in the language the child is proficient in to assess the child better. Not knowing a common language is not a sin, but the assessment must be able to analyze whether the child is capable of learning more languages, and appropriate testing methods can be used to test that capability. Another important factor is the parents. They are the most reliable resource of information about their children. Other teachers who have known a child for a long period can also help in the assessment process. Maintaining a cumulative record is the best method of erasing all doubts that can crop up while assessing a child. Parents have the right to know the assessment results of their children, and their opinion matters. Conclusion. Assessment has a huge role to play in the life of a child. Assessments must be very age appropriate and must be used to resolve problems of children. Assessments should never demotivate a child nor bring down the self-esteem. Assessment is meant to be publicized. Educators must consider the fact that assessing young children is very difficult, as they are very unpredictable. But at the same time, care must be taken that assessment does not go wrong, as timely interventions can help a child overcome a lot of difficulties. Hence, for this purpose, it's very important to understand the principles of assessment, as it will help the educator in applying the right assessment and method in assessing young children. Thank you.